I'm Charlie Gutridge, Premier Radon Services out of Pennsylvania.
And I'm Jesse Green with American Radon Mitigation here in Minnesota. And we're just wrapping up our day 3 of our 3-day hands-on radon training course, where we had 4 mitigators from different parts of the country. And we installed a radon mitigation system on this house.
And it wasn't just like he set it up. Like, this was a client of his, and we really came in here cold with the bid to install the entire system. That was really a surprise for the 4 of us.
Yeah. So what we did was look at optimal mitigation, which is let's get the radon levels as low as possible, and let's make sure it's energy efficient, making sure it's quiet, and let's take a look and see how we did that.
This installation started out quite usual. The fan is right behind us on the other side of the wall in the garage. Very normal, up through the roof of the garage. Pipe comes down here, and our first penetration is right here in the corner.
We proved with our diagnostics that this would work. We would kind of be weak for pressure field extension over on the other side of the basement, but we could make this work with a high suction fan.
Which would have been, for us students, like first step. That's like the obvious, well, the manufacturers say if it doesn't work, you need a bigger fan.
Yeah.
But you kind of threw that all on its head.
Yeah, so thanks to Chad Robinson at Kansas State, he got me nerding out on the optimal mitigation, which is, for me, like, how can we make it better? And, a high suction fan like an Eagle Extreme or a GP 501 or the GX, whatever they call it now, or like the RN4 cranked all the way up, would be what most guys would maybe put in here in this situation. So it consumes a lot of power and has some noise to it, and maybe not the greatest of radon reduction. But with optimal mitigation, how can we make it better? That's kind of how we approached everything. So we started with sealing this huge floor-to-wall joint, and then we could mock this up again and found, hey, we're still not getting great pressure field extension. How can we get it better? And the answer was add another suction point. So we came in here, and then we ran 2-inch pipe all the way over to the middle of the basement. So let's head that way. So our pipe comes up and over. And then this was our second suction point. So we want to be by plumbing to take advantage of that settling. The plumbing runs out to the front of the house behind us here, and then runs that way and ties into where our first suction point was, the kitchen sink drain. So we were able to apply suction here, and that suction point over there kind of treats that front or that back half or quarter of the house,
yep.
Where this one helps treat the middle section. But what did we find here?
That back corner over there, it was just barely being touched when we had our first suction point there. The second one here made it better. But then Jesse said something else.
How can we make it better? And what else did Charlie find? What did you find here?
Oh yeah, underneath that air handler, the furnace and air conditioning, we were standing here scratching our heads, trying to figure out what else can we caulk. We had caulked cracks all over the floor. We had caulked the floor to wall crack.
Because we needed to go back to high suction fan to get our number we were looking for in that front corner.
Yep. And we want to keep as low a suction of fan as possible because it's a lot less expensive for it to run.
And noisy. It's not as noisy.
Yeah. So we were standing here, and I looked down, and I saw there was just a little gap at the air handler. So I grabbed the smoke pen, and sure enough, it was being sucked underneath there.
This house must have been built in the winter. So they hang the furnace from the floor joist and then pour, because they got to heat up in here, and then they pour the concrete. Well, you can see where the furnace was too low and they didn't get concrete all the way underneath it. We did some exploring and cut open the bottom of that furnace, and there was a hole that we ended up sealing, and then that helped us get better pressure field extension there.
And that was news for us because, as students, we were from all over the country. I'm from Pennsylvania, and when we build a house in the wintertime, we don't put the air handler in. We bring in big propane heaters, and we just put a bunch of moisture into the house and heat the place up with big flames. And yeah, this was really a surprise for us.
So thank you for finding that. We're at, if I remember right, 4.1 inches of static pressure to reach up there. Sealing that dropped us to like 3 inches, but it was still we went from eagle extreme to eagle.
Yep.
So how did we make it better?
We put in another suction point. You can see the pipe here running across and to the front. But why did we choose to put the pipe there?
Well, we've got the sewer clean out here. So this is where the plumbing is the deepest. It goes out to the street. This is where it exits the house, also where the water comes in. And we put it here to take advantage of that settling, that disturbed soil. So Chuck dug this suction point, and he said it's all pretty loose over here. Even when I drilled my test hole here to do the communication test before we committed to putting a suction point here, remember when I drilled and then stopped, and then I could just, set my bit down, and it went like that far down.
Yep, lots of space, lots of air, a good spot for a suction point.
Yep. So the footing was here, and then the slab, and we had a gap between the slab and the footing. Well, Chad Robinson from Kansas State University is their lead trainer down there, radon trainer. He said clean that out because we had this big floor-to-wall joint that we could stick a nickel in here.
Yep.
And when we sealed the top of that, we've got basically a big raceway we can use to our advantage to extend that pressure field extension.
That's exactly right. And then as soon as we tested this, we had excellent communication to that corner.
Yep.
And then once we got it all hooked up,
we got a valve and barely sipping on it. We needed to pull 1 CFM at 0.2 of an inch of static pressure to get our target pressure field extension of, 5 pascals over there, 4.5 pascals negative.
that's what we were aiming for.
Yeah. So that really helped us with our optimal mitigation. And we thought we had it licked. So this was last night, we got the fan and everything running. So this is day 3.
Yep.
And we got back here this morning and our numbers were 1.2, 1.2, 1.2, and 1 here on the dryer.
Yep.
So he was happy. I was like, crap, why is it so high still? And then that's when we did the 4th suction point.
Yep.
So
So that's when we teed off of here and put another valve and ran across over towards the front porch.
So the front step is here, running 10 feet that way, and it's the concrete slab on that front step. And we scattered the eco trackers around because we had full pressure field extension, and the garage slab was testing low, but this was testing at 3 up here. So
Yep. So then he said, well, we could drill a hole on through, and before we knew it, he had everything all set up and was drilling away. And once we had it cored out, we took an eco tracker, stuck it in the hole. And what were the numbers when we...
I think it was like 6.3 inside here.
Yep.
Under the front step.
So he had found it. That was the culprit. That was the problem.
Yep. So then we did this, hooked it all up, sipped on it, and kind of rebalanced everything, went to lunch and came back, and it's kind of been around 0.6 to 0.3 on all 4 of our eco trackers since then. So we halved it again. We were 1.2 and now we're 0.6, 0.5.
And here we were really happy with just being below 2, but he wanted to be below 1. And we didn't really believe that it was possible, but he proved that it was more than possible. It was the right thing to do.
And we used a very efficient fan. So an RN1, Fantech RN1, which would be the equivalent to a Festa Spirit or a Radonaway RP140. We've got it all balanced with our dampers, pulling 15.5 watts. We're figuring we've got 2 CFM from conditioned air loss because we're like 22 CFM. And our operating cost, remember what it was?
No, actually, I don't.
$24 a year.
Oh my goodness. We went from the biggest fan they make was going to maybe fix the problem all the way down to the smallest fan they make, more than fixing the problem. I'm Charlie Gutridge, Premier Radon Services out of Pennsylvania.
I'm Jesse with American Radon. Thank you so much for watching.